Good morning, everyone. This is Harley Howard. Welcome to our live edition of the Committed 100 Ministry Lectures this morning. Back to what is the biblical church? And of course, dealing with a particular topic that, let's just say, does not get a lot of airtime. But before we go on, today's a very special day. And that's Dee Howard, my wife, 62 years old, not young. Well, just say it's 62 years young. No, it isn't. 62 years old today. It's a blessing. A lot of birthdays this week. My mother-in-law, Dee's mom, she turned 90 this past week. We had a wonderful time up in Chatsworth area, celebrating her 90th birthday. It was a wonderful time, and I'm glad that I had an opportunity to be there because I met family that I've never met before. So it was a great time. And our table was just hopping with joy and craziness. There's a long backstory to that, but I tell you, it was a wonderful, wonderful blessing. And the whole event turned out just absolutely magnificent. And so it was a blessing to be there. The issue of the virtuous woman in Proverbs 31 doesn't get a lot of airtime. Usually preachers are scared to preach about it, especially if they have a wife that they have to go home to, which may not be virtuous, and she may feel as though she's being picked on. A lot of people have that silly mentality. I keep reflecting on the 50s and how the image of a wife, the priority was her home. The husband would work, the children would play, the priority was the home. Yeah, they may be a little mischievous, but usually mom's moral lectures and dad's imposing figure and the veiled threat of punishment of some kind was enough to take care of the business. And so programs on television and movies were designed to make sure that the family structure was always elevated and intact. And today, all that is gone. There is not a single television program at all, no movies, nothing that remotely enhances the family unit as it was in the early 50s, what have you. It's just not there. And sad to say, much of it is not even in the church because women are running around as so very touchy. They don't even want to admit the continued influence that bombards them on a continual basis to really neglect the family unit. And that's because doctrine and theology and the study of it require careful thinking and mental discipline. And that's why most Christians avoid them. And we are in an avoidance stage of Christendom where it's just ever increasing to ignore genuine Christianity. And the more that happens, the more we are inviting God's wrath, not only upon our country, which is a whole different issue because the unsaved are already inviting God to it in their refusal to submit and subject themselves to the gospel. But the church is also inviting God's wrath upon her because she simply sides with the heathen, will not obey God. And that's true in the issue of the virtuous woman. Never a text has been so clear that women should aspire to be, and yet their focus is on anything and everything but. And I never plan to hold back. I've taught this many times throughout the 40 some odd years of teaching, and usually you get that side eye from mostly everybody, and I didn't care. Bring it. I'm grown, I'm a man, I can take it. God is on my side because his word must be preached. And when you have half the homes in the Christian community, running back to the court to get annulments and divorces on par with the unsaved, that should say something. that in my view, the question wasn't, can we fix their marriage? The issue was they should have never been married in the first place. And I've already given very, very clear reasons why a lot of these things happen. But let's get back to the issue at hand, the virtuous woman being rare, of course, because they're not normal. They're not common. They're out there. That's the good news. The good news is there are virtuous women. They do exist. And if woman has half a brain spiritually, that's what she's going to strive to be. Because she sees it's not only God's plan, but to focus her attention on what is her biblical priority. Other than that, she's living like any other heathen. It's that simple. Either you conform to what God says or you live like a heathen. Pretty much whatever you want to do, which is what most women do anyway. You're very critical of women. I just tell the truth. Deal with it. If it applies to you, deal with it. If it doesn't, fine. But stop acting like I have to deal with your emotions and how you respond to the Bible. That's ridiculous. You know, God commands women as he commands men to submit to a series and set of scriptures that are designed for his glory and for the betterment of your life and your home. And if you don't want to do it, blaming me doesn't change anything. I'm going to go back to verse 11 because this is very interesting about this virtuous woman. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, Proverbs 31, by the way, so that he shall have no need of spoil. So her husband completely trusts in his wife, has no need of the fear that she would cause the finances to come to a place of ruin. She is a good manager of the home and of the finances. She works with her husband as a team player. She recognizes her biblical role. And I'm telling you, this is those who recognize their biblical role. And this is something you strive for every day. You put your attitude, your hands on your hips, smart alecky, head rotating attitude on check, and you go, that's not what God told me and commanded me to be or to do. You know, every time I do that, that's in violation of what God commanded me to be and to do. I need to display to my husband, who is my priority, because I'm his helpmeet, his direct, or should I say my direct authority is him. God put him over me to be my head, which means, man, you have a great responsibility. We have a tremendous responsibility. And since God placed him as head over my life, then my focus had better be to please him. In the same manner, God is our head, all of us. And our whole entire reason for living is to make sure that we please him. Simple. Very, very simple. She's a true helpmeet in every sense of the word. Period. She does not waste the hard-earned income that is brought into the house. There is no need to tell others that your husband does not trust you. The issue is, can he trust you? And this is the question that needs to be asked. A virtuous woman is one who can be trusted. If you can't be trusted, that's on you. That's not on your husband. That's not on your kids if you have any. That's on you. If he can't trust you, he must have a reason. Because if he can, the Bible's clear, he's safely trusting her. He's relaxed about it. There are women who are notorious for waste. They take the money, what little or lot they have, and they just waste it on things they don't even need. You don't need 8,000 cans of air freshener. Well, it was on sale. And that money could have been used for something else. You don't need 8,000 of anything. There's always going to be a sale. That's the whole deal with 99-cent stores and Dollar Tree stores and Big Lots and these other things. grocery outlets and others, there are great finds that if you're patient, money can be allocated in the other areas that are needed rather than wasted on the word sale. You don't need to buy everything on sale on a Tuesday. There'll be more sales. It's that simple. And we all do it to some degree, but those who are responsible for the finance, you have to budget. You don't have to buy everything today. You not only don't have to budget, but to learn how to make sure that you buy food sufficient, whereas you don't throw everything away. Yeah, and that's a whole nother series of teachings that I do not plan to get involved in about, how you shop and all that. That's up to you. How you shop is your business. But the point being, of course, is that he can trust her and realize she doesn't have to bring home 900 of one item because it was on sale and only her and the pet eat it. It just doesn't make any sense. Verse 12, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Now, how is that even remotely possible? How is it? I mean, look at the verse. Don't look at, well, you can look at me, but look at the verse. You say, well, put it up. All right, there we go. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Do you actually make that a part of your daily existence? Do you tell yourself that? When you get up of a morning, you say, how can I do good to my husband? How can I do him good? Am I a liability or am I an asset? Am I agreeable or am I disagreeable? Am I argumentative? If he says do something, do I start debating or arguing with him? Just do it. No, we develop these patterns and habits towards our husband, or should I say, you develop these patterns and habits with your husband where he will say something and you want to debate about it. Well, you're being disagreeable. You have to trust your head. Unless you have a reason not to, then you're out of order in God's plan. Her goal in life is to do her husband good all the days of her life, which means her number one goal in her household is her husband. That's why we have such horrible marriages, divorces, splits, and what have you, is because women today do not have the right priorities. I'm talking women professing Christianity. Their focus is not on their husband. That's what got Eve all jacked up. The focus is not on her husband. You don't really see how the train wreck of your household may well be because you are not focused on your right goal. Your goal is your husband. I'm not getting into the issue of who you should have married. Again, that's dead as far as I'm concerned. If you're married to one, a husband, I can't listen. I'm not the fixer. People call me from, or used to, can you help my marriage? No, I can't help your marriage. How do you expect me to help your marriage? What do you want me to do? I have no idea what's going on in your household. You tell me a half a story. He doesn't say anything, and you want me to fix this. Why am I the fixer? Why don't you just do what both of you do what God says and everything will take care of itself? But no, I'm not a fixer. I have no power to fix anybody's anything. That's not my responsibility, and nor is it the responsibility of any leader. We can listen to what you both have to say. We can, ascertain in prayer and God's wisdom what really is going on. But the bottom line is all roads lead back to Scripture. And if we're not doing that, it doesn't matter what I tell you. So my point is, I just don't waste time anymore. I'm 64. I'm trying to make it to 100. And a lot of that's going to happen without a whole lot of ridiculous stress. And I'm thankful that God gave me a mentality to always believe that all roads lead from and back to Scripture. They do. If your goal in your life isn't your husband, you're wrong and you're not virtuous. I don't care what you say. The goodness that a husband experiences in this life can be directly attributed to the virtue of his wife. I just, out of humor, I got this article. This article came into my box about words you could say to your husband or significant other, and it will make them really love you. Things you don't want to say that will shut your husband or significant other down. And so just for humor's sake, I wasted about 20 minutes, and it was just pure nonsense. That if you say the right words, it'll make your husband's heart melt and all this kind of garbage. And and it was even mentioned in the clip how you can trick your husband, how you can manipulate him to do what you want him to do by tapping on emotional and hormonal buttons. You think this lie is anything new? Do you see how ridiculous this all is? How we want to manipulate men and husbands. Don't even see why we're in the condition that we're in. So here's a great solution. Let's add more of the garbage that's contributory to the nonsense we have now, and we just sell it to people. Let's not do what God says. Let's not go, you know what? My goal is my husband. I'll take care of him. Warts and all, he's my husband. And the more I love him, the more he will respond to me in a way that's not manipulative, because he knows that I love him. I don't have to manipulate him. I know that he does. And he knows that I do. Warts and all. She enhances his life. Listen, the whole world could tank. The whole planet could just do all the stupid that it wants to do. The only shelter that man has from all the stupidity in life is his wife. If he does not have that kind of woman behind him, he's truly alone. Not from God, but from his helpmeet. He's basically helpless, because she enhances his life and adds an element to his life that God evidently knows that we need. See how simple this all is? None of this is complicated. Women have to give up their selfishness. Men have to be leaders. Women are primarily selfish, emotional basket cases. And when your life has been surrounded by women, home, school, work, you notice there is always that thread that runs through all of them. They're emotional basket cases, hormonal issues, whatever. And all that aside, because that can be dealt with, the issue is a lot more than that. They're emotional, car wrecks, because a lot of that is by choice, because of the things they read, the things that they see, the things that they listen to, the music that they listen to. All these things promote that. Whatever you put in your head, through your eye gate, through your mind, through your ears, to your brain, don't tell me for a second that stuff doesn't influence you. And I'll say it to everybody. The more of stuff you put in you, whatever it is going to influence whatever you do. Man or woman or child, whatever. Stop, do a 180 and go, I'm going to put my time into that which is biblical. Watch what happens. That flesh of yours will go hog wild crazy. You need to listen to, the influence is there. But once the proper focus is there, you're going to realize, man, my house is blessed because I took care of my man. That's it. He doesn't have to look anywhere. He doesn't have to think about anything. He knows I got his back. He knows because I do. Period. She's supportive and encouraging to her husband all the days of her living. Oh, why bother getting married? Why bother? Why wreck another man's life? Do we have enough train wrecks as it is? Okay. She can neither lift her husband to the heights or bring him down to ruin. The woman of virtue will be encouraging to her husband. What else? Well, verse 13 says, she seeketh wool and flax and works diligently with her hands. In other words, she delights. See, the attitude is the thing that's often neglected. You know, a woman can work and be busy and then she'll be blowing on. You know, the attitude is there. You can almost tell, apart from the physical aspect, it's just not there. The attitude to do these things is not there. Then when you talk, she gets snappy. Attitude's not right. She takes delight in working. She seeketh wool and flax, worketh willingly with her hands. Attitude. In other words, she's not lazy. She enjoys making clothes for her family. And you'll see this truth again and again and again, over and over and over, with the virtuous woman. She doesn't mind making things, clothing. Okay. Here's another one, verse 14. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar. Now, a merchant ship brings trade from other countries. And in that, she's a good shopper, shrewd, a wise businesswoman, bringing many unusual and different things to enhance her home. That's a good thing. You know, she wants to cook something a little different. Work for it. Do it. Brethren, you want a woman with some common and industrial sense. Listen to me. You don't want just a sex object. That should be the last thing on your list. You want a woman that when you are finished with your business, you got someone with the brain. Okay. She's thinking you're Prince Charming. You're thinking she's hubba hubba. And when all that junk is over, you better make sure she's got a brain. That she has some sense. That she understands what it means to be a part of a household and her role in building it up. Because I don't care. You can't make her do that. You don't have time to be a husband and raise a wife. You don't have that kind of time. That's not your responsibility. You raise children. You don't raise a wife. Your wife got your back. She's there. Period. You say what you want, all the mockery that goes on about the Ozzie and Harriet age and all that. It was a much happier time than the junk we see now. Laugh all you want. We should be praying to go back to those wonderful days where families were families, where no one had to guess their gender nonsense. It's stupid. Clearly Romans 1 behavior. Clearly reprobate mind. Verse 15, she riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. So she's usually the first one up before the day, before the sunrise, preparing food for her entire family as well as for her servants, giving instructions to her servants as well. She's up in the morning preparing food. The priority is her family. When getting up in the morning, she should be making something. Now, again, it doesn't matter to me that you get mad at me. I don't care. You could do that and just prove everything I said about you not being virtuous. You could do that. Go ahead. You're not going to offend me one lick. You know, it's amazing how people instantly prove everything I say just by their response to the truth. Try to find a woman who knows what it means to cook something. You don't have time to be a husband and a chef. I don't mind cooking. I mean, I did that in the Army. I did it growing up. You know, I spent time in the kitchen with my mom. What time we had where she wasn't drunk or threatening to kill somebody. And there were times where I would just cook. I would cook without her, and rarely I would cook with her. She would never share recipes. She died, and all the recipes died with her. But I learned to cook sometimes for survival. I wasn't always married. And so when I was single, I learned to cook. But I'm married and I expect my wife to cook. Even better, what does the Bible say she should be involved in? Again, these are priorities. Today you don't have to be tied into your household. You can make all the excuses you want. Your priorities are screwed and messed up if it is not your husband. Or don't bother reading Proverbs 31. Just keep being what you are, whatever that is. You don't have time to be a husband and a chef. 16. She considereth the field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth the vineyard. So she uses wisdom as she considers buying a portion of land for the purpose of planting a vineyard. This is not something that we really deal with today. With her own hands, she plants a vineyard. She's a hard worker. We can see that. She's a hard worker. Okay. She understands the priority of her home. Brethren, find a woman who knows the meaning of work. Hard work. Get one of those women who are hard-working women. They're out there. They are there. You got to stop looking at the outward and all the hubba-hubba. You need to do something a lot more than that. One of the things I teach about cooking, especially stews and soups, and that's this. Everything, and I mean everything, depends on the broth. If the broth is wrong, everything's wrong. You can have the best chicken, beef, pork, but you can have the best meat, you get the best veggies, you get the best of everything. If the broth is off, everything is wrecked. So your focus in cooking any soup or stew is that broth. The broth is foundational. She's the broth. I mean, if she's not where she needs to be, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. It doesn't matter because the whole thing is wrecked. Put too much salt in the broth, is finished. Too much pepper, it's a flamethrower. Balance, taste, foundation. Find someone who knows how to cook. Find someone who's a hard worker. Brethren, find a woman who knows the meaning of the word work. You don't have time to be a husband and put on the apron. That's not your responsibility. You can't be the woman and the man of the house. Priorities. We're almost done. Today, that is. What else? Verse 17. She girdeth her loins with strength, strengtheneth her arms. Well, we know she's a strong woman, physically as well as spiritually. Of course she is. Her attitude towards work is right. She's got the right attitude. She's a hard worker. She's not ashamed. She delights in it. Being at home as opposed to working outside the home does not mean that the woman can spend time at home watching dope operas and talk shows. She has to understand her goal is still to God, her family. That's it. That's the priority. Everything else is a hindrance to that. Her strong biceps and physical abilities do not come from step aerobics, but from stepping up from that bed to work around the house. Step out of that bed. Do that aerobic. Get up and do some work around your house. Do what you are supposed to do. You have a responsibility. Well, get up and do it. It's remarkable how some women can spend their entire life in the gym, trying to look good, and find it so hard to lift up a frying pan to cook for the man and for the kids. She can bench press her body weight, but can't press her husband's slacks before he goes to work. She can lift up to 200 pounds of barbells, but she can't get up in the morning to fix breakfast. No, my beloved, the virtuous woman looks good because she works hard, not because she works out. Now, am I saying there's something wrong with working out? Of course not. It's a matter of priorities. Are you listening? It's priorities. That's how you have to see things. It's priorities. Last point, we're done for the day. Verse 18, she perceiveth that her merchandise is good, her candle goeth not out by night. The results of her planting her vineyard is good. Again, I'm not sure how many women plant their vineyards. Sometimes, women plant vegetables, what have you, depending upon where you live. She's not only the first one up in the morning, but the last one to go to bed. Many women find time to do everything their flesh wants them to do, while at the same time sacrificing her family on the altar of her own flesh. And even if she did stay up to do what is right for her family, her long face and dragging lips reveal that she really doesn't want to do it. It's about attitude. It's about priority. Do you see your husband and your family as your individual priority? This is a truth taught in both testaments, both Old and New Testament. There are examples of it everywhere. Well, the Bible is, we need to do things with the Bible. Bible. Stop talking. Here's the Bible right there in these verses for you to see and ask yourself, am I virtuous? You don't have to ask your husband. You just have to ask yourself. You don't have to ask anybody, am I virtuous? If you have to ask somebody, are you virtuous? You're not. Because if you are, it would be so evident and so clear. Look at your family. Look at your influence towards your family. This is not rocket. Nothing is rocket. I'm surprised to some degree, very little, of course, how people are running around professing Christianity and it's like they can't read a lick. Well, they can read. They just have this thing called, I got different priorities, and the priority that you're talking about is not mine. Okay, well, clearly not. Evidently, you got something more important, and it's going to be reflective in your marriage. I'm not advocating anything. I'm just saying that oftentimes you drive your husband away. That's the truth taught in both testaments. Women don't want to take responsibility oftentimes because this is the age of women. Women can do no wrong, even though much of what they're doing is so blatantly sinful. But now women are taking over everything. That's not God's plan for a matriarchal, female-based society. That's never been his plan. That's another one of those perversions and corruptions that the world perpetrates. Kill your babies. All right, you don't want that baby, kill it. Husband, I don't need him. I can do what I want. I'll just kiss more women, blah, blah, blah. Just keep on ignoring the truth. And all this keeps perpetuating in a society that is reprobate. And unfortunately, many professing Christians are getting caught up and accepting by default all kinds of behaviors that integrate into their mind, making provisions, as we'll see, God willing, at the end of Romans 13, making provisions to fulfill this stuff in our minds and heart. Next thing you know, we're doing it. Attitude, so important. Attitude. Your attitude to God is priority with your family. How you believe, what you believe is God's best for you and your family. Your attitude is so critical. And with that, Lord willing, tomorrow we're going to talk about more and more truth in regards to spiritual discernment. How can we be discerning? Even, all these teachings do connect together. They all connect together. Believe it or not, they really do. It's very interesting how they're all integrated together in our learning process. Spiritual thinking, spiritual discernment. The mind, how the mind is before and after the fall. We're going to continue that tomorrow. All right. Hopefully that you'll have a wonderful day, and that may God continue to bless this day. And Lord willing, I'll see you here same time, 10 o'clock tomorrow, for a lesson on the need for biblical discernment. God bless.